We celebrate ourselves as, global bullies on Twitter. KOT, you can't mess with KOT, right?
Well, a very, very warm welcome to the Goldmine Show. We are absolutely excited to bring this show to you. As always, we must keep reminding you that there is greatness on the inside of you. You are a goldmine, and the last thing you ever want to do is to quit on you, man. You cannot quit on you when you're such a goldmine, when there's such greatness. That's exactly why we keep doing these shows, to keep being a constant reminder of the greatness that you are. Want to invite you to follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok, and all these wonderful channels. And indeed, today we shall talk about a lot of them in just more detail. And I just want to invite you, man, keep following us on the Goldmine Show. And more importantly, also keep spreading the word. And let's keep reminding everyone out there that we have greatness and we've got to defend it. We've got to work at it. And we've got to do all it takes to become everything we must become. And today's show is an amazing show. Wonder how much thought you give to IT and technology, how much of it is a vice, how much of it is an opportunity, and how to really deal with technology around you right at home, my friend. And today we bring an amazing conversation. Sometimes you don't think about these things, but they affect you nonetheless. I'm so pleased to introduce our guest today, family IT consultant, the one and only. And you'll be amazed, man. Her calendar is full, man. She's busy saving us from us, my friend. I want to bring to you my good friend, Evelyn Kasina. Good to have you on the show, man.
What an intro.
Well, that's who you are, man. That's who you are, then. That's what's up.
Thank you for having me.
Yep.
Yes.
Karibu sana, man.
Let's do this.
Let's do this, right? Let's do this. Yes. You know, man, it's interesting. Technology has changed the world, literally. But it also seems to change us at home as well in more ways than we seem to understand. And you've been at this, man. Why don't you just introduce yourself a bit and let's dig into this.
All right. As you rightfully said, my name is Evelyn Kasina.
Right.
I am a family IT consultant.
Right.
I believe the only one in Africa. But I open it up for people to join into the space.
Right.
My core business is online safety.
Correct.
Predominantly for the child. But because the child doesn't really live in a vacuum, I extend the services to people within the ecosystem of the child.
Right.
And within my work, I do work with parents, guardians, educators, and also governments, those who are responsible for, the infrastructure of technology,
right.
The ISPs,
right.
just to help them with policy, which will be very specific to protecting the child, right? And at my own space, I am a mother of two. Children who are in that digital space, I call them digital natives.
Right.
And I love to cook. So that's just it about
And now that you decided to become personal, how old are your children?
My children are 8. My daughter is 8 and my son is turning 11.
So they're right at the heart of digital natives. So for you, this is not even theory.
No.
This is very personal for you.
Yes.
Right?
It is even harder for me sometimes implementing some of the things in my home.
Right.
Because my husband is a doctor and he keeps saying doctors are the worst patients.
Right.
So treating yourself is really sometimes very
difficult.
Yes.
And you're full of your own blind spots. It's easy to tell other people and difficult to practice it yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yes.
But you say a very interesting thing. I mean, family IT consultant. Some of the careers that we didn't know existed.
Mine is one of those.
Technology just brought them on us.
Yes.
By the way, what does it take to become a family IT consultant, man?
So initially I studied, my background is in computer science.
Computer science, okay.
So I started doing cybersecurity for corporate.
Right.
I got frustrated because I felt like that space was really crowded by first men.
Right.
But then everybody was doing cybersecurity for corporates.
Right.
So the few clients I would interact with would tell me, please put off social media in the office during a certain time. But then I'm like, okay, it is in the network. An adult has a phone that can get into mobile data. So if I want to be on social media, I really don't need my boss's internet, do I?
I can use my own. Yes.
They don't want their staff to engage in inappropriate content. And I'm like, but the authority, you're watching inappropriate content, you want me to block it. But then in your home, you will sit pretty and watch it. Would you be happy if your child found you watching inappropriate content? So I just felt, especially when I became a mother, that the dysfunctionality that I see at home or in the society, it starts from home, right? Because there are so many things that we would ordinarily say, I do not want you doing this, but you're the same person who is doing that. So we are losing the moral authority. So I felt that it would be easier for me to protect the family going outwards. Yeah.
So effectively, you took your cyber staff into the family space,
yes.
and therefore now today dealing with families.
Yes.
But you've asked a very pertinent question, man. If your children found you watching what you watch, and I think it's $1 million question, how many of us can watch what we typically watch in private alongside with our children?
Yeah, very few. And the thing is, without us knowing, because when you want to do your busy things,
right,
you'd ordinarily tell your child, shika simu.
Yep.
And your phone is full of crap.
Right.
I say that with all love and honesty.
Right.
It is full of crap.
You just called it crap.
You are in maybe at least 5 WhatsApp groups.
Yes.
People are sending you things on WhatsApp.
Right.
You've not put that setting where it should not download the content into the gallery. But then you give your child that phone. So when they go and see a pornographic kind of video or photo in your phone, you are the face of authority.
Right.
Then on the other side, you're telling them, you cannot engage in this.
Double speak.
But they saw it in daddy's phone.
Right.
They saw it in mommy's phone.
Right.
So what is this? I'm learning it from the people who should be teaching me about morality. Yeah. When we are seated and we will prescribe to the Netflixes and all, but we are not taking our children through the process of, can we prescreen this content and have a conversation about age appropriateness of the content. Not just pornography. I'm talking about violence. I'm talking about language. And you will sit with them and watch, and when those funny, spaces come, you either mute or you either change the channel. But you don't engage in what they've seen. What did they understand when they saw what they saw? You want to sweep it under the carpet. What you're doing at that point is, the seed has been planted by someone.
Yep.
You're not, demystifying that. And your child will go on Google and ask. They just go on the internet and search. What does this mean? Yep. Somebody else has already pre-filled that conversation for you.
Right.
The disadvantage of that is that you might not have the moral authority, or your values are not engraved in what that other person is saying. So you're leaving your child to be taught these things
by the world,
by everybody else,
by whoever else.
I take my children to school. Si mwalimu amfunze.
Right.
I take my children to church. Si mwalimu amfunze.
Right.
So what's your role in the ecosystem of the child? And I'm going to send you this photo so that you put it on this clip. The guardian and the parent are the primary sources of influence. Primary, then the school, then the society. If you look at their society now, it's hybrid. Your child right now, would they rather play Roblox or be outside kicking a ball?
Roblox, they'll probably go to screens.
So their playground has gone online. Unless you're really that parent who toka injo ukachomwe na jua kidogo. So which will mean now for your child it is very hybrid. For very many children, as long as there's a screen in front of them, their playground has gone online. So their society has changed. Between you and I, when we were growing up, we used to play outside, which means I would know your good manners, your bad manners, I'll know how. And our conversations would be very...
And we developed even social skills and everything else. We could connect at personal levels.
So I would know I'm coming to play with you because we go to the same church or we go to the same school. Right now, your child will be playing with somebody from another continent. So language is a difference. Religion, culture, very many things. So when you also don't teach your children that when they engage in this space that has no boundaries, they will interact with other people. And that's why bullying really doesn't have like a word that you can really define it with. Because in Nairobi, I may say something that in another country, it is not,
it's part of their lingo.
Exactly.
Right.
So we find ourselves in a space where we want to raise our children, but we do not want to equip ourselves. And that is the danger.
Right.
And that's why we are having this conversation.
And we must have it, man, because, the illustration you just said, I'll put off, I'm busy doing something, so the only way to distract my kid is, here is a screen. I give them a screen to buy my freedom and a bit of time.
Yes.
And we need to speak about this screen thing.
Yes.
What did I actually just hand over?
What I keep asking parents is,
Yes.
if you're going to pacify your child with a screen,
Yep.
ask yourself at what cost? What's the cost?
So let's unpack this cost, because sometimes and sometimes we innocently do it.
Yes.
And sometimes you don't even think about it. Sometimes it happens in the spur of the moment. You don't even give it a lot of thought. And we need to unpack, what is this cost and what is this? What prospects have I just handed over to this child? And because you've been at this,
Yes.
help us to unpack
So
this.
there are different levels.
Yep.
Let's talk about the screen time.
Right.
I know before COVID, the World Health Organization had given us like a guideline of how much time, depending on age, we can allow our children to be behind the screen. But then COVID came and our lives literally had to be online. So we really struggled with, if my child is under 10 and I needed to give them 2 hours, but they need to be in school, the 2 hours is not attainable, right? So we needed to start thinking about the conversation of screen time. So for instance, as a parent, you want to go to work and your child is making noise. Okay, so I'm going to give them this screen so that they, again, you said you're buying your freedom, but this is work. At what point then do you decide, I've finished work, I need to engage my child? But also, in terms of screen time, if I'm going to give them this screen, what kind of screen time am I allowing? So for me now, I have to educate parents and also children on the different types of screen time. So one, we have active screen time, where I want to learn something, either go duplicate it or learn to engage. For instance, I'm going to tell you my children are coding or they're playing chess. It's interactive screen time. Then there is what they would call their entertainment or social, where they will go to their social media platforms, play, talk to their friends. And then there is passive, where they just sit and binge. So if you're going to give your child, you're going to buy your freedom by giving your child the screen, what type of screen time are you giving them? That is a very important thing to master. And then again, at what point of the day will you engage both?
So there must be some rules of engagement there around that.
Definitely.
All right.
Definitely. So I keep saying that if your child has to be on the screen the whole day, which is not possible, but if they have to, can they engage on interactive screen time when their brains are fresh, and then passive during the end of the day? But then at what point will you, as a parent, come in and engage your child? So that you have to answer.
You know, even before I engage a child, the question is, as soon as I hand over the phone, where did they go to? And there's this risk. They said I wanted to go to Google to find out X, Y, and Z. No problem. And so on that basis, it sounded like a good reason. And I gave away. But at what point it flips from that Google search into something that I don't even monitor, supervise? No, is a space that I would want you to talk into a bit.
You see, the thing is, even for you as a person, as an adult, you may today Google something to do with weight loss, but your algorithms will start sending you pills, surgery, things that are just suggestive to weight loss. That is how it is also for children, because they will go and Google a certain cartoon that either has violence or a certain theme, and that is what will start coming into their feed. They'll be tired of watching Tom and Jerry. So what is the next best thing? Or there's a autoplay on their track. So they'll keep, it's a rabbit hole. They'll click, this is good, I don't want it, I'll continue. So they keep clicking and moving on. It's even worse, I think, for some platforms where it's very quick content. It just comes and goes. It's 10, 15 minutes, 15 seconds of entertainment, it just comes going. You find that the way the platform is skewered is to keep you hooked, right? And so that's why it is important for us parents to stop looking at the technology as I have to be a techie so that I'm able to help my child. That is not necessarily the point. You have to know what kind of help does my child need. Will you control the kind of content your children are watching? No, it's not possible. Because you have a life, you have work, you have all these things you need to do. But can you help your child to pre-screen the content before they watch? Absolutely. And as you're helping them to pre-screen this content, what kind of conversation are you having with them? This movie is out, it's in the big screen. Let's pre-screen it and see what is the theme, what's the language, what are the representations that are here, do they align with our values, right? Who is going to have the values conversation for you? It's only you. It can't be the nanny, it can't be the school, it can't be the church, right? It's you. So you have to have the values conversation with children so that it is the basis of how are we going to build up on this conversation. And that conversation does not happen like this. You have to be intentional to go back. Like I always keep saying, go back to the basis. If you are raised in a certain way and you feel like I want to raise my children like this or like that, what's the why, right? It's as simple as that. I want us to go to church. Why? I want us to go to a mosque. Why? Right? What are our values? So that if your children, should they decide, because they have choice, that my parents want us to watch Christian things only, but I want to watch violent things, they will make that choice. But not because they were not told, it's because they want to. And that is where I also keep telling parents, don't parent with guilt, because there's a time where you'll feel, oh, my child is watching pornography. What did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. They made a choice. Yeah? Maybe because you told them, or even the society out there is giving them a certain pressure for them to do those kind of things. So I keep saying, even as we're having this conversation, let's go back to the basis. You know, I said in the beginning, I'm going to ask you a question. And it is, how many data-enabled gadgets are in your house? Do you know?
Every gadget is actually data-enabled.
How many are they? Can you count?
So today I'll talk about my own phone, my wife's phone, our television, the laptop in the house, the iPad in the house. All. So let's assume 5.
Assume 5.
Yep.
All data-enabled.
Yes.
Do your children have the luxury to just switch on any and consume?
Someone will just come pick my phone, they move on, another one will pick an iPad and move on, and so those.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting. So in our own house, we don't even have passwords to any of these gadgets. We share freely all our devices.
Okay.
And because of this home fiber question, there is data throughout at home. So from a data enablement perspective, it's permanently on.
And unlimited.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Today, you will want to upgrade your phone.
Yes.
Who will you give your current phone to?
Oh, to circulate within home.
Yeah, you will, hand down.
Right, you hand it down within the family, yes.
So when you're handing that down, and this I think is where also some of the dangers come in, we are handing down our gadgets to our children. So I will say, shika simu. What is the responsibility I'm giving you behind this phone? Is that a conversation you have?
In fact, we need to ask, which conversations do we even have? There's something about the device and gadgets that have killed conversations even at home. And I just want to come back to something you talked about earlier when you talked about just even discussing, is this within our values or is it not within our values? Truth is, I think all of us, very well meaning, sit around home, everyone in their corner with like a small little device, etc. And we don't mean no harm. But at the same time, we're not actively having any useful conversation, because so and so is actively doing something on their device, and maybe the amount of time we spend doing that is just a lot, but we don't realize it.
No, we don't.
And so if you ask me, if we sat on the sitting room for 1 hour and maybe one of my daughters is on phone, I'm not sure what they did for the last 1 hour. But they were busy, and all of us, no one is at conflict with any other. We are all good.
And it's quiet.
It's quiet.
Perhaps everybody has even an earplug on, so let's not disturb each other with our own noises.
And I think it is typical. There's this very interesting picture that goes around social media of these kids who've gone to visit their grandparents. And the grandparents are all in shock because everybody's on screen. Nobody's talking to them. And they don't even know that kind of life. Because during our grandparents' days, we connected. We talked. We played around. We broke glasses and we were thumped for it and all of that stuff. But that was a life. Today's life looks different.
When you and I were growing up, our parents had the responsibility for 3 basic human things. So it was dressing, feeding, and education.
And shelter.
Right? And shelter.
And shelter. Food, shelter, clothing. Right.
Right now there's a 4th one. Internet. Can you survive without the internet?
No, you can't.
No. My own son, I think sometime back, we went to my parents' house. We just connected Zuku, and my son was like, oh yes, there is internet here. And then my parents were like, no, we just have Zuku, as in it's just a TV.
There's no internet on it.
And my son could not believe, so he went and asked the grandfather, what is the internet password? Then my father said, we do not have. He asked, is that one word? Because he was like, right?
Because that's a password too.
So for them, and this is not to their fault, unfortunately they live in a world where they came in and this is here. So what we need to do is to come to their level.
You know, Evelyn, you're a consultant at family levels. The challenges we see are not theoretical or hypothetical to you. And I just want you to paint a picture of 1 or 2 of those, names withheld, of course. But just help us to see, what has this degenerated to? And what are those situations, real kind of situations, that you're therefore dealing with? Started innocently, but this is where we are now.
Well, as we sit here today in 2022, one of the things that I never thought, or I didn't hope to deal with in my context, is self-harm. I read about these things on the news, but it happens in other countries. Sadly, I have had to deal with self-harm. And when I think about, when I'm taking the journey with a child who is harming themselves, technology, yes, it has a very big role to play, but there are so many underlying issues. Either my parents are not together, or even when they're together, they're just not together. It's the convenience of living together. We are not having conversations. But there's one thing that I'm not getting affirmation. Okay? So your child will put a photo or a video of themselves online. Today it will get a good hit. Tomorrow it doesn't. And that works on their self-esteem. Okay? So what did I do yesterday that made all these people give me likes? And what have I done today that I'm not getting the same reaction? They want affirmation. Unfortunately, they're getting affirmation from strangers, right? Why is this person telling me my hair looks really nice? Didn't my mom see it? Didn't my dad see it? And it sounds very simple, right? That I bought a dress that my mom didn't acknowledge that it looks nice. But somebody somewhere, actually thousands of people, said I look nice. And I put on a similar thing. Nobody paid attention. The hit that they got when they put something on Instagram and they got very many likes, it's called dopamine. It's a fast hit. So tomorrow I want to do something similar or something even better. That's why our children, unfortunately, are participating in very many online challenges because they want to fit in to that society. Do we understand how their society works? No. But our children are feeling like they can't even have simple conversations with us. That's how badly it has gone. That I feel if I tell a stranger that I feel I have suicidal thoughts, they will sympathize or empathize with me more than when I go tell my parent. Because maybe when I told my parent, and this is reality, I'm not talking about fabricated stuff. I went and told my parent that I'm being harassed or I'm being bullied in school, and they told me, pia mimi nilibuliwa. Pia I went through this.
Pambana nayo.
Atumambua mwili yako ni kubwa. Si basi uache kukula sana. That's the response that our children are getting from home. Our children are being met with a lot of violence, verbal violence, sometimes even physical, from parents who don't understand what their society or what their lifestyles look like. And the deterioration has come to a point where, even when they're having suicidal thoughts, they can't go to the same parents. Remember I said, you're the primary source of authority for your child. So if they don't come to you, they'll start looking for other avenues. Can you control those other avenues? No. Another thing that I'm dealing with a lot is the fact that even we are not understanding the repercussions of our own things. I'll give you an example. And I keep saying this, and I know one day it will bite me, that as Kenyans, we celebrate ourselves as global bullies on Twitter. KOT, you can't mess with KOT, right? But what are we telling our children? So I can't come and tell my child, you cannot go and abuse somebody else when you are the one who is abusing other people, just because you think you can. I can tell you that what you're doing is wrong.
Have access to some data.
Exactly. I can tell you what you're doing is wrong, but I don't need to extend it to a point where it becomes personal and I even don't know you. Some of the things that we are doing in terms of adults and how we are dealing with situations, we are actually mirroring a very dangerous perspective to our children. And that is now I'm saying our children come and, sometimes you will tell them, they'll come and tell you, so there's this thing that was going on in school, we were trolling somebody. It starts with trolling. Or we made a prank. And the prank, it keeps escalating until it becomes something full-blown. So we just doing mindless pranks, they took it seriously or they retaliated, so we decided let's do something more. And then something that was happening within a group of 5 people, when they put it online, it takes a life of its own. The people who participate in it online don't know where it started. They don't know it was a prank. They don't know it was simple. The person who is on the receiving end then does not know how to cope. Do they go to the school counselor who will go and rat me out to my parents? Do I tell my parents who will beat me up for it? Then what do I do? That's why I'm saying we have come to the point of self-harm. Because this child has got no coping mechanism. They feel like if I put pain on myself, I'm going to deal with what is happening. A child who was being told that their body is big, they felt like if I cut myself, the extra fat will ooze out. But when you cut yourself, ordinarily, fat is not what comes out, it's blood. And that is a problem. But that child is feeling so hopeless and they're feeling that they're in so much pain that it has to be physical for even the emotional one to get out. That's where we are. And if you look at even our current situation, because I want parents to also start paying attention to the mental health of kids. COVID has thrown very many curveballs at us. So the kids who are going through the 844 system, what is happening to them? Crash course. It's crash, it's crash, it's crash. So your child comes from school, they have so much homework, they have so much work they need to do. Teachers in school have so much pressure they need to finish the curriculum. Your child comes home, they have no breathing space. You're giving them more work, they're not even letting them, sleep extra or do this. So because maybe they're a candidate, you're like, ata saa tu utaenda shule, or you're going to do extra tuition. At what point does your child just become a child? Right? So as much as the society is also giving them pressure, at home, the pressure is still mounted on them. What are they going to do? You'll find children who now are going onto the gaming platforms to just, entertain themselves. They will steal the phones. Okay, you have an agreement that you can't go with the phones to the room, or the cut-off time for entertainment is at this time. So mumenda kulala. They'll sneak, go play until like 4 a.m. in the morning, because they also need to, the same way you're on social media with your friends, they want that. And then you realize your child in school, they're struggling to keep up because they were awake until 4. Si wako shule, by 10 mtoto wako amelala shule. When they're being reported, what are you doing? Instead of trying to understand where your child got to the point of doing all these things,
I sue the teacher.
Or you beat them. Or I beat them,
yes.
Yeah. Are you making the situation better or worse?
It's getting worse.
So right now, I feel like our children are in the space where this is the common thing they tell me. Our parents don't understand. That's it. And for sure, we don't understand. What is really sad, because even when I'm having these conversations with parents, is, do you actually want to understand? Because unlike your child, you know how to cope with bullies. You know. You actually even know the consequences of the choice that you will make to cope with a bully. Does your child know?
No.
Okay. When I'm in class and I'm teaching them, for instance, let's just talk about the bullying issue. Or they're throwing a prank. You and I, once upon a time, we used to teach teachers in school. Ukishikwa, utachapwa. Ukishikwa, utafanya punishment. What we used to do in our time in school was not documented somewhere. They will decide to create memes, put them on the online platforms, mocking a teacher. But you see, the teacher will see it as mockery. The child is thinking that this is a mindless prank. What is happening is they've put it online, people will download it, and that information will hound them later on in their life. It's a disadvantage. But then they feel like you people are being so uptight, you can't take jokes. That's how they see it. But at what point do we tell them, okay, fine, even if it was a joke, what is the extent of this joke? What are the consequences of this joke? What I'm trying to say is, you as a parent or the teachers or the guardians, we are the adults, we need to come down to their level. We need to show them, yes, we didn't grow up with these things, you are growing up with these things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to learn how you interact with these platforms. But even as I'm learning, are there things we can discuss? Language, the content you post, because even for the girls, the girls, you're asking me about how bad things are. I'm going to keep throwing things at you.
Please go.
How are things bad? There are girls who feel they're told by their boyfriends, they're teenagers. Teenagers, your body is developing. Boys, their voices are all these things. And the boy will tell the girl, if you don't send me a nude photo of yourself, I'll go date your friend. So she stands in front of a mirror and takes a nude selfie and sends it.
Oh no.
So when she sends it, she has delegated all the authority to this person. They will still decide, I'm going to date your friend. They go on Photoshop. They go do their things. The next thing you'll see your photo on Instagram or on a WhatsApp group. Yes. Then what will this child do? Because when they come to their parent, the photo is out there. It is out there. What are we doing? Damage control. Sindio. But at the end of the day, even as we're doing damage control, what are you trying to tell your child? This person pressured you so much that you had to send a nude photo for them to make you feel worthy. I'm going back to affirmation. Have you told your child they're beautiful the way they are? Or are they believing just the way they are, they're supposed to be like that? You get what I mean? It is the simple things and the
Evelyn,
simple conversations.
that almost says this technology, its impact has a lot to do with the level of health at home.
Yeah.
Because if it finds a functional home where we know how to affirm our children, then they don't need to go to some of those lengths.
Yes.
where we no longer talk, and those things don't happen, then they will still look for them somewhere else. And it almost sounds like the character of what it shall take has a lot to do with the level of function or dysfunction that we have at home.
Yeah, and intentionality.
Yeah. So technology of itself is not either bad or good.
No, it's how we use it.
And how it finds the home landed.
Yes.
Depending on what is at how the home runs.
Yes. Generally.
Because then, I mean, think about that girl you just talked about. I mean, looking for affirmation out there by sending nudes and all of that stuff. And by the way, I suspect that that's not even an isolated case. Those are many cases out there. And you can imagine when you start there, it's down. It's a downward.
Downhill,
It's downhill all the way.
Yeah.
Because then it's difficult to recover.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not impossible, but it is difficult to recover. But if you go back to the roots, it was just a simple statement from a dad that looks at the daughter and says, "Man, you're beautiful."
Yeah. Who is supposed to show a girl how men are supposed to treat women in society? It's their father. I keep saying, even single mothers do not have the excuse to say the father of this child is not in my life. Do you have father figures in the child's life who can model what this father would have done? Similar to single dads, right? You cannot be a mother to your children, period. I cannot be a father to my children, period. I even insist, I go ahead and say, what I know about men is theory. What you know about women is theory. I'll come and say, you know, men do, it is from a bias somewhere.
Stereotypes.
Yes.
Right.
It is.
Yep.
And so whether you're coming from family that has the father and the mother living together or not.
Or not, yes.
Everybody should play their part.
Right.
That's what I say.
Right.
Number two, it has to be an intentionality of, and this is what I say to parents whose children, where you feel like, oh, my child is not on social media, I know what they do. You don't know. Let me just tell you, you don't know. You have to have very deliberate conversations with your children and be interested in their spaces. And I start by saying simple things, and today go try it at home. The same way I asked you, what was the best part of your day? You know, you thought, and we had a conversation.
Yes.
But if I came and asked you, by this, Sasa,
Fit.
how are you?
Good.
Default answer, default question. Yeah. I mean, because we are not thinking about, but if I ask you, by the way, today, what made you smile? You will sit and think, why did that make me smile? What about this person made me smile? Whom did you sit next to at lunchtime? These are the conversation you have after.
And you're able to build a conversation around it.
But also trying to make your child feel that truly I am interested. This was making you feel frustrated. Okay, by the way, before I give you my solution, what do you think you would have done? What would you have done better? Our children will mess up, but they need to feel and they need to know that if I do bad stuff out there, wrong consequences, if I come home, I will be received and we will have a conversation about it. And I even keep telling my children, before I punish you for whatever it is, can we understand where we are coming from? Why is this landing on you, right? When you are making, because I know there's a point where parents will ask, okay, so this technology, my children are so much on their phones, what do I do? Okay, you want to reduce the time, right? Why? So if you're going to reduce 30 minutes from your child as a substitute, what would you put as a substitute to the 30 minutes?
Because there's no vacuum.
There's no vacuum.
Right.
And also, should they violate the rules? What is the process of consequences, right? And I tell parents simply, if it's technology, if they were abusing time, take away the time. That's what they abuse, so that they can realize, oh, kesho, kama ni 2 hours, ni 2 hours. If I need an extension, I can go and say, siku maliza, may I extend? If they were abusing a device, take away the device. We need to think about the consequences of the different kind of rules that we put in our houses, right? And this is why I say this: when you find your child watching porn for it, and I use porn because it is one of the biggest topics, and I keep saying it's not the only one. But parents overreact when their children are watching porn. When we were growing up, we had to be very intentional to watch those things because it was magazine print and stuff like that. It was not a privilege for many people to have these magazines. Right. So when you find them, hey, na kuficha ni rahisi, chini ya mattress, you know, you kunja it somehow. But for our children, it is behind a screen.
It's all over.
On a platform. In fact, they choose the platforms. And so you come and find that your child, either through a computer, the history you see, oh, they were watching porn, or you find them at that moment. Instead of asking them, where did you, is it somebody who sent it? You want to understand, how did you arrive here? But also, what are you consuming? What is it doing to you? Are you understanding what you're consuming? You start thwacking them or you take away the device. So assuming you take away the device and you put it somewhere, your house manager has a smart device. Your driver, the playground, hapo tu nje, they are smart devices. So even if you an alternative device. Yeah, even if you take that device from your child, they will find something else. Because if it is a social media account, the password and the username is in their brain. So they'll just need another data-enabled device. Yeah. And so it's
so taking the device has not sorted the problem.
No, it doesn't ever. Even beating the child never sorts this.
It's not a substitute to the conversation we must have.
You must have. And what I'm trying to also tell parents is you have to have those difficult conversations. Because I know when we were growing up, it was not easy for us to find ourselves sitting with our parents and talking about these things. But the advantage then is that there was a role society played. When you and I were growing up, there was a role society played.
You're a child of the society.
Me, I would be beaten by my neighbors.
Absolutely. And you even negotiate with them, please don't think
I know.
home. Because I'm going to be flipped again.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Now, touch my child. Touch my child. It's a whole different conversation.
Completely.
There are parents who actually go to school and say there are things I do not want my child to be taught. Even whether it is in the curriculum or not, don't tell my child. But your child will stumble upon these things, right?
Either way.
I was just telling your wife earlier that there is this, and I don't want to call it a disaster because I don't want people to feel panic, but we are not even ready to have the LGBT conversation. It is here. Are you on the internet? The same internet I am on. It's the same internet they are spending their time. Same platforms. Same platforms. In fact, what they even binging on, on Netflix and all these other platforms, same thing, right? My 11-year-old the other day came and asked me, what does it mean to be a gay? And he knew what it is. He's 10, he's just turning 11 in a few weeks. And his reasoning was to see if whether we will lie to him or not.
So he's putting you on the test?
Yes. He knew.
I've done my homework. Let me hear you out, man.
And he corrected us. And he said, don't use the word sex. It is gender. Because he knows. Where did he know? So, I even remember when the subsequent conversation started coming, I always kept telling my husband, don't lie to him. If you don't know, you don't know. It's okay. Because it seems that he knows more than we think he does. Na huyu ame decide kuona kama tunajua Kenya najua.
So let me test you guys out. Let me test you out.
So if your child comes in, and for him, at the end of the day we're gonna having this conversation, his concern was if my friend comes out, and those are the words he was using. If I have a friend and they come out and say they are gay, how do I support them? No, how do I support them? So we had to have a conversation around that. But you see, sometimes when a child comes to you, you panic. You have not understood where they're coming from. You panic. Apana, pepo mbaya, shindwa. You start, you go into another trajectory. Then the child is looking at you, is like, I just wanted to know the definition. Then you're like, oh. So by the time you're coming back, you have thrown so many curveballs at them. They're like, okay, so why did you react the way you did? Right? Why? So we are not ready. Even for that conversation, we are not ready.
Why? Yet it's at our door.
No, it's here. It's in your house. It is in your house.
It's interesting. And you said very many interesting things right there. Because there's a question of even how we deal with reprimand at home.
Yeah.
There's a question of how I deal with when they probably mess up. Does it still give them the confidence tomorrow to come back to me, knowing that then they have some loving arms that will always be firm and corrective, but with great love at the same time?
Yes.
And whether that is provided at home or not is an important question.
It is.
Because at some point they'll have to vent it out somewhere.
They will.
And if home is not the place I can go to, nature has no vacuum, they will find a place.
They will.
The only problem is if they find an alternative place, you've lost complete control around that particular matter. And maybe you've lost that kid.
You have.
You're right.
True.
And I'm also a parent, and I can tell you for free, children have no issue acknowledging that they messed up.
No.
They have no issues accepting discipline and correction.
Yeah.
But they still want to be assured that then you still love me nonetheless.
True.
And I can come tomorrow.
Absolutely. And this is what I even tell parents, when you're so upset that your child lied to you, is it that you don't lie? Even in your adult life, is it that you don't lie? But weren't you a teenager once? We all were teenagers. We, once upon a time, tried to circumvent all the parameters of security that our parents had placed for us. It's only unfortunately, we didn't have the gadgets, right? But our parents told us, don't go to people's houses, don't do this. We circumvented those things.
Don't kula kwa jirani.
Tulicircumvent na tulijificha. Ukishikwa,
right.
The consequences will be upon you. But where we could sneak away, we did. And so I think we also have to come to a place where we understand that we were once where they were. It's just that their world right now is slightly different from what we know it. Right? We also need to understand, and this I'm saying to you parent out there who generously gives your children phones without passwords, that an adult phone, please listen to me, an adult phone is not for children's eyes, period. I'm not going to explain more than that. An adult phone is not for children's eyes. You want your child to be behind a screen, give them a screen that you have some semblance of control over. And this is why I was saying that sometimes things download into our gallery, we will, I mean, if you come to my phone right now because of the nature of my work, you will find very many things that are questionable. But I was Googling, I was researching, I was doing, it is in the history. My child will press, it will take them somewhere else, right? You have friends who have got no breaks or boundaries. They will send you things your child will see. So, babysit your child with any other thing than adult devices. They even should know when you're going to family spaces, family functions and all these kind of things, hata za aunties na uncles, because you cannot control what your other siblings do with their phones. You can't.
And by the virtue of the fact that we're even in so many WhatsApp groups, when people send you crap, and all that stuff is in there.
Yeah,
it's all in there. But you know, the second thing that I also thought that was very, very profound that you just said is our ill-preparedness causes us to react a certain way to what we think is uncomfortable. Yet the discomfort around it does not negate the realities around it.
True.
Because if you're asked the LGBT question and you want to defend it and almost cast out demons in the process, because there are no demons to cast out. The truth is there is a reality to deal with, and you've got to prepare this child that they can be in a world that has it but not be it. But that can only be a conversation.
And you know why?